What's happening, folks? Back with another reaction, back with some more Savoy, and we're back to start going through a new album, Lackluster Me, 1997. Major shout out to big friend and champion of the channel, Graham, who has shared all of Savoy's material with me. And yeah, I really enjoyed Mary Is Coming. There were some different flavors along the way. I'd say the predominant flavor was a guitar-heavy alternative rock, but it also had a pop rock flavor, a punk rock flavor even some that were a bit slower and more ballad-like, so yeah, looking forward to hearing how maybe some of those styles continue or develop further, maybe one or more coming to the fore over the others. But yeah, looking forward to it. The first track is indeed the title track, Lackluster Me. You know, it perhaps speaks to a self-deprecating nature, or at least an assessment of one's condition, or perhaps behavior more likely, in which, you know, maybe not a withering assessment, but certainly not an overly glowing one. The idea that, well, you know, it's not great, you know, I get things done, you know, eventually, you know, inevitably I get, you know, by one way or another, but, you know, it's not anything special or to write home about. It feels a bit if not negative, again, a bit self-deprecating. So, not sure, you know, in what way this person is lackluster, maybe how their behavior is unambitious, or perhaps, you know, a little too comfortable in what it's familiar with. Basically, or just perhaps they're not up to things, you know, the idea that like, well, in the end I'll kind of ride someone else's coattails and I'll get through the situation, but, you know, it's really not my own initiative, it's not my own energy or work, so be interested to hear the way in which it's lackluster, or perhaps, you know, it's the perception of another, and it's like, oh, so you did like just lackluster me, huh, and it's not, this isn't like a multi-direction dynamic. I feel I could conceive of other ways in which it would be relevant, but primarily it makes me think of someone who's saying like, you know, like, don't get your hopes up too high, at least in one respect or another, because, you know, you may be disappointed. So let's find out what it is. This is Savoy, Lackluster Me, from the album of the same name, 1997.
Before you, what can I be to make you want me? All I have, I give to you. It's all I need to pull me through, and we will get out while we can.
I love this.
Yeah, we will walk across the land. We'll let the birds feed from our hands, out of our heads. Don't you We'll let the birds feed from our hands, out of our hands, out of our hands, out of our it's out of our it's out of
I don't know if I've ever found myself so attentive to a fade out, making sure I'm not like missing anything. It almost felt like part of it was fading out, but that glittery electronic element felt like maybe it was still in the foreground, so I wasn't sure what was happening. But we may have just heard my favorite Savoy tune so far. I think we did. I know I said that a few times in the latter half of Mary Is Coming, so but this felt production like on another level. This felt like, you know, taking some of the flavors maybe of the first album, but then adding like all sorts of instrumental bits, like not instrumental in terms of no vocals, but like, again, it sounded like there was an organ, sounded like a cello, a violin, some electronic elements, and this nice like rhythmic like beep or bleep. And of course some good guitar. Paul sounded good on the vocals. It gave me in the first couple minutes like a Beatles vibe, and then it grew to something more than that, which, you know, is not an insult to the Beatles. It's just saying like it became more than what I was thinking in that regard. And yeah, that was a really top tune. And, you know, I've talked about it before. I always think, you know, it's never a bad idea to start an album with the title track. You know, again, if it's in some ways conceptually indicative of more of what is on the album, or even if it's just a good like tone setting album or track sonically, and that's amazing. Like I said, probably my favorite Savoy tune, and complicated or, you know, complex and multifaceted in a way I don't remember hearing on one of their tunes up till now. So really top one. Let me know if you agree. See you next time. And once again, big shout out to Graham for sharing this.